So now what I'd like to show you is how these labs will work. First of all, we have a few types of assignments. We have exams, which include quizzes. We have training, projects, and SAM paths. Let's take a look at an activity list button. The activity list is where you will spend most of your time because this is the pre-scheduled program of our activities. So next week you will see a new set of activities. Right now we're looking at SAM Path Word 1 and Project Word 1. That's what you would find in Blackboard under week 1 as assignments. So how do we get started? Well, the first part would be to learn the skills, then do a project afterwards. Okay, so the project you always want to leave for the last part. How do we learn the skills? First, we learn the skills by creating a relationship with the robot and telling the robot what we already know. And this takes place by going through the pre-exam. I will demonstrate how that works. Everything that's in blue you can click on. So I will click on the pre-exam. We have to go through the pre-exam first in order for the robot to know what we already know about the subject. If we know a lot, the robot will be able to narrow down the training only to the skills that we need. So, here is how pre-exam takes place. Sam, the friendly robot, and you have a picture of him on the handout there. Sam says, okay, start Microsoft Word using the Start menu. Now, I happen to know how to do that. All right, here's how you do that. You go to the Start button right here. All right, and then you go to Programs, and then you go to Office, and then you scroll down. Right, I'm really good at this skill. You can start Word. And now Sam knows that I know how to do that. But you don't have to know how to do that yet. If you failed, if you clicked on the wrong programs, Sam would just take note of that and teach you how to do it later. So at this point, I have 34 different skills that I will be tested on. And then the training is created for me. At any point, you can skip to the next task. You can then look at the set of tasks that you completed or skipped. You can go back and forth to the tasks. And when you are done, and some people choose to say, you know what, this whole pre-exam, I just want to learn all of the skills. Even though I know a little bit about Word, I want to learn all of them. You can just say exit right here. And when you say exit, okay, Sam is going to tell you, okay, you did one thing right, and the rest of it didn't go so well. That's okay. I am done with the pre-exam. At the moment, the pre-exam is still highlighted, but this is because we're looking at a web page. So what I will do next is I'll press refresh, and notice that the pre-exam is no longer blue, it is now black. I now can move on to the training section. Today is all about playing with the system so that when we get to next week and there's actually a gradable item, you will be comfortable doing that. It says here that it's now available. It says here that this is done. You will see throughout the course that new assignments will appear here. They will have all due dates, and you will see when they are available. So let's see how the training works. Well, before I go forward, any questions? Please.
We are not graded on the pre-exam or training.
Okay, excellent question. Here's what you're graded on. You're graded on the project. You are graded on the training. You are not graded on the pre-exam. And the post-exam is optional. Okay? So, you see here 3 elements inside of practice. Pre-exam, training, and post-exam. Pre-exam is where you tell the computer what you already know. And you don't have to know anything. This is an introductory class. So you are not graded on the pre-exam. You will be graded on the completion of the training. So if the robot says you have to do 15 skills, and in a moment I'll show how that works, you have to go through the training and you get 80, 100% on the training, and that goes in the grade book. Then, once you have the skills, you will move to the practice, to the project, and the project is graded again. Okay? Later on in the course, we have another element that's graded, and that is a text skill, where you will open the textbook, the Microsoft textbook, follow instructions there, and that's also going to be graded. Okay, so let's see how the training is graded. Well, I open training, and the training opens an emulator. Just like the pre-exam, the training is administered through this online system. And notice that I'm right now on the Macintosh. And it works just fine because all this Windows stuff, all this Office stuff is inside of an emulator. And if I turn my
the open dialog box
audio
appears. In the open dialog box, click rivervalleybrochure.docx.
The computer has audio here, and it tells me step by step what it is that I'm learning. You can turn off the audio if you're in the lab, or you can bring headphones with you. That's fine. We are in the observe mode. The observe mode is just like watching TV. All right? All we're doing is we are looking at the skills that we are going to practice and learn in just a moment. A lot of folks choose to skip the observe mode because they just want to get into the practice of it. There are 3 different modes: the observe, the practice, and the apply. What's graded, Ishmael, right? Ismail. What's graded, Ismail, is the apply mode. So you're not graded for observation, you're not graded for the practice, you are graded on the apply mode. The good news is that for training, you can rerun it as many times as you want to. So if the first time you went through training and you got 60%, I can do better than that. You can rerun it as many times as you want to. Okay, let me show you what the practice looks like. In the practice run, the computer is going to still, it'll talk to me. It'll tell me what to do, but it waits for me to do it. So now it says, okay, click on File. I click on File.
The File tab displays Backstage View.
Now it tells me
on the navigation bar, click the Open command.
Now it says click on Open, so I go ahead and do that.
The Open dialog box appears. In the Open dialog box, click rivervalleybrochure.docx.
All right. We are learning now the skill of how to open a Word document. Now, I'm sure that most of you know how to do that, okay? But this is how you'll be able to later learn Excel and Access and some of the more advanced pieces at a very slow pace, step by step. In fact, at your own pace, you are going to follow the steps outlined by Sam. Now, once you're done with practice, once you've clicked on everything and you had a nice run through it, notice what the training is going to look like in the apply mode. In the apply mode, no one is talking to me. All I have are instructions at the bottom. Okay, click the File tab on the ribbon and on the navigation bar. Click the Open command, then in the Open dialog box, click the River Valley Brochure and click Open. Before, they had visually for us all the buttons lined up, and I had to click in the right place. Now, they expect that I already know how to do that. So I go to File, I go to Open, I click on the file, and now Sam says, you have completed this task. 2 thumbs up. And now this part is graded. So now you have to complete all these tasks that the computer wants you to verify that you know. Make sure that you wait for this message to come up. This means that the computer noticed that you completed the task and the task is going to be checked off correctly. There is a button here, Task Complete. You click on that, and now in the task list, I have a check mark that I know how to open existing documents. Okay? You can do this at home. You can do it on any computer that you have. This is going to be primarily homework. Okay? So by the time you come to our lab, let's work on the projects, because the projects are going to be a little more challenging. Okay? But this is how you're going to learn. Any questions about these steps? Please.
Are we also doing a project on Blackboard for each project that we do, or not?
When we get to Excel subject, we're going to add the textbook into the mix. And so then what you are doing in the textbook will be submitted to Blackboard. And then I'll actually grade those parts. Yep. Okay, so what we'll do now is, instead of completing all these steps, and I will let Jacob complete this on his own in a moment, I will exit the training, and By the way, you don't have to print any of this, even though it looks like it's suggesting to print. Don't print anything for me, please. Sometimes even the textbook will say, go to File, Print. If you want to practice printing, that's okay. But you don't need to turn anything in paper in my class. So we'll just say close to that. And notice that once the training is in motion, it stays there. Okay? And only after you complete the training, the post-exam will be available. The post-exams are optional. Okay? I'll be very clear about that. You're not graded on the post-exam. What we found was that it's better to test your skills in a project than in a post-exam activity. Okay? So even though these will be available, these are not graded and will not the grades will not be moved to Blackboard. Okay, any questions so far? Already? We're going to do one more thing before I'll give you a little bit of time to play with Sam. I'm going to show you how the projects are working. So now that I have learned how to work with Word, I was walked step by step through it. I followed the clicks. Finally, I made the clicks all by myself. I am now ready to go to the project. And I know it's a project because it starts with PR and then the type here says project. So I click on the project. Notice I have 5 attempts at this project. What that means is that when I complete the project the first time and submit it to Sam, Sam will give me feedback and he'll tell me you missed these things. I can then continue to work on my file and resubmit it, and I can do that 5 times. So we'll say start, and in this particular project, I have a few files to work with. First of all, I have instructions. The first file to download are the instructions. The instruction file is going to be a Word document, and let me go ahead and show that to you. This Word document is going to have the main subheading of instructions, and we have to follow each step of the instructions to complete the project. From the top it says, open the file, name so-and-so, and save the file with a new name, and the only difference is we go from 1 to 2. And then there are other objectives in the project. Some people have found that they would like to print these instructions so that they can look at them and then work on the computer at the same time. So we will follow the first step of the instructions. This is how you get the file. The file will have your name on it. So it's not like you can complete a project and then distribute to the rest of the class to turn in. Okay? Each file has your signature on it, and then if you turn in someone else's file, it's not just the file name, it's inside of the file, then it'll come up as a wrong submission, as an academic issue. So this file is now marked as Jacob's, and he needs to save the file. And the first part of our instruction set was, hey, make sure that you open the file and then you rename it. So we'll do that. This is my file, and I have to save the file and rename the end of it to 2. And now save. This was the very first step in the instructions. These are the instructions. All you have to do is just save the file with an extension docx and number 2. So let's assume that I've gone through all the instructions and I've changed the fonts, I typed out all the text that they wanted me to do. Here is how you turn in your work to Sam for review. We go back to our assignment, and now I have a browse button, and this browse button allows me to upload a specific file. Okay, and the file I'm looking for has to agree with what Sam expects. And following instructions, it's that file that has number 2 at the end. I'll go ahead and submit that. The first thing that Sam will verify is that the name of the file is correct, the signature of the file inside is correct, there are no viruses, it's good for grading. It may take a moment of time for Sam to create the correct reports and to grade it. So now that I'm in the Reports tab, I can see, first of all, that there is a report on my practice of Microsoft Word. And in this practice, I would have detailed information on which training I completed, what is my score of the training. But now I have to wait just a little bit for Sam to actually examine the file. So it may take maybe 5 minutes, depending on how many people are turning in assignments all at the same time. And multiple universities are using this system, so it doesn't just mean even our time zone. So in a moment, Sam is going to provide us feedback on our project here. All right, any questions, please?
I did that, and like I tried to like upload it back into it, and it said that it didn't recognize it, but
Okay, so if I wanted to re-upload the file, I have to go back to activity list, go back to the project, okay? Now I have 4 attempts remaining. I say start, and you see I can re-upload the file, but the file has to be what it expects. So it has to have the right name, and the easiest way to do that is if you save the file that you're working on, your project file, be very careful that you do not save it in some temporary storage. So the moment you open the file, save it to your documents. Some people will bring in a USB drive with them and then save all their project files on the USB drive. That works well. Another way to work with this is if you have a project file, you can attach it to an email, send it to yourself, so that at home you can download it from an email. But be very careful that you do not misplace your project file, because then you just have to start fresh. Okay? So, yes, please. You can bring your home computer to the lab if you want to. That'd be fine. Okay, so now notice that my project came back. It is already graded. Sam reviewed my project, and now I'm ready to download my report. So I'll go ahead and do that. The report is very detailed. Every instruction that was in my instruction file now has a point value to it, and if I completed it, it has a check mark. So if you have 80% of the project done, you will know exactly what you still have to correct. Okay? Sometimes, if you are working on a Macintosh computer and you're working on the Macintosh version of Word, some elements might be difficult to correct on the Macintosh. So what I have suggested to some of you was do as much as you can at home on the Mac, and then come to the lab to complete the couple of steps that are on the Windows box. So notice that I have a check mark at the very beginning. It says, hey, I verify that your name appears in the footer of the document, and the name of the document is fine. The first step was completed, and this is great. Now everything else, unfortunately, we failed, but we know exactly what to change. See, we know exactly what to change next. We still have 4 submissions to complete, and when we are done, when we are happy with our score, then we can close the instructions, and by the end of the course, you will have a number of outputs here. You will have feedback for multiple projects, multiple practices.